Hello everyone out there and welcome back to my channel. Today is Friday, December the 16th. You know what that means? It's a week before Christmas. This month is at the end already. So I hope everyone enjoys the rest of this month because we only have a few more days left. If God's willing, we have a few more days left before 2023. And so I'm going to go right into the message that God gave me today. And the title of my message today is Call to Make a Difference. Call to make a difference. And see, that word difference just simply means different. Different. And see, God likes a variety. And you just look at all the different people, all the different nationality God has made. We all look different, we think different. There's something unique about all of us. And so God is calling us to make a difference. You know, and all of us has something special about us because God has given every one of us gifts. That includes the gift of the Spirit. The gifts of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against there is no law. That's Galatians 5:22 and 23. And we know that the fruit of the Spirit, it has to grow. But see, the fruit of the Spirit will grow as we apply it. And so all of us has something special and unique about ourselves. We have something to give. It's something in us that will make a difference in another person's life. Because some people be thinking, ain't nothing special about me. Yes, it is. God thinks you are special. What the word says, the 139, Psalms 139 says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. That's 139 and 14. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. So it's something special about every one of us. A lot of times the reason why we don't think we special, because we don't think nothing special about us because we comparing ourselves to other people when we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other people because God has uniquely made you for whatever calling you have or whatever he's calling you to do. God has already equipped you for that work. A lot of times we be looking at ourselves and we can't see what God sees. And so sometimes God has to let us experience certain things to let us know that yes, I'm talking to you. Because this is how he had to do me in the beginning. Because I just remember in the beginning, God revealed to me that he wanted me to preach. And so I began to discuss this thing with my cousin. When you close to your relative or your sister, brother, whoever you close to, a lot of times you will talk about things that, you experience. And so I had this experience with God, and God began to reveal to me that he wanted me to preach. And so I began to discuss it with her. And so I began to ask her, could you see me talking to people? And so her answer to me was no. And that's because she knew I was not a very talkative people, especially when you're talking about talking before people or talking to a crowd or a group of people. That was not none of me. Naturally, so I didn't feel bad with the answer that she gave because this is exactly how I was naturally. But the thing is, when God puts his supernatural on your natural, you actually have the ability to now do things that you could normally not do in yourself. And so when she said that, because it actually I couldn't even see myself doing it myself. But I knew that's what God had told me to do. And so I remember after having that conversation with her, I went to church and I heard through prophecy, a prophetic word, which was confirmation that yes, God was calling me. Yes, this is how he said it, little old me. That's what I could say to somebody else, little old me. So he was confirming, yes, I want you to make a difference. I'm calling you to make a difference. And I thought it was so funny because this happened It might have been a day or two after I had that conversation with my cousin. Because God has a way of confirming his word to you. Letting you know that you're not crazy. You're just not coming up with this in your own mind. Because I knew it wasn't none of me coming up with it in my own mind. Because as I have said before, I never thought about being a preacher. Not at all. But over time, this thing has manifested. Because this is now what I'm doing. And I'm doing it online. And so God, if he tells you something is in you, it's in you. It's in you. You might not see it. It might take a while for you to see it outwardly. But you are going to actually do it outwardly. To where you're going to know that God has did something in your life. As I said, because a lot of times we don't see ourselves the way God sees us. And then, people... It doesn't matter what they think about you. Not saying nothing concerned about with my cousin, because, she just was saying what she see. But God sees something else. He seen something else in me that I didn't even see in myself. And so it doesn't matter what other people think. It only matters what God says about you. That's all that matters. And so I just thought that was funny. It took me a while to come to the point where I would even say preach. I should just say talk. God want me to talk to people. God is so awesome. He is so awesome. God is so real, and he is so faithful. He is so faithful. So when God tells you something, it's going to come to pass. It's going to come to pass. And I was just thinking about the story when he called Gideon. Gideon, because a lot of times, like I said, we diminish who we are in eyesight of God. And God sent the angel to Gideon to tell him what he was calling him to do. And you know what Gideon did? Immediately he began to diminish himself. Because he could not see himself the way God had seen him. And so I want to read a little bit about Gideon in the book of Judges, the 6th chapter, the 11th through the 16th verse. I hope this word encourages someone out there. It says, "And there came an angel of the Lord and sat under a oak, which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And the Lord looked upon him and said, Go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent thee?" And so he told him directly that he was sending him. And this is what Gideon said in the 15th verse. He said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said unto him, Surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. And so he just could not see himself as being a warrior, because this is exactly what God was calling him to be, a warrior. And he made a difference, because through his obedience, he preserved his people. He was able to preserve his people. But in the case of Jonah, it was totally opposite. Jonah rebelled against God's God's direction, the direction that he wanted Jonah to go. Jonah just didn't want to do it because he didn't like the people that God was going to send him to, because he didn't feel that these people were worthy of God's mercy. He knew that God was a merciful and forgiving God, and he did not want God to forgive or show mercy to these people. And so that was his opinion, but God did not care about his opinion. He just simply wanted him to obey what he was telling him to do. But you see, a lot of us, we running from God. God is telling us he wants us to make a difference. Sometimes we looking at ourselves, like I said, I'm looking at myself on what we think we can do. And God is saying, you are who I am calling you to be. You are who I say you are. And so a lot of times because we can't see ourselves, we will rebel against what God is telling us to do and simply run from him. Where is it that you can run? Because God is everywhere. You can't run from God. And so this is what Jonah did. He tried to go an opposite way and go down to Tarshish. And it caused them to be caught up in, not only it was causing other people to get caught up in his storm, but it also caused him to be caught up in a fish, because God had to stop Jonah. And so Jonah was, he was swallowed by this fish, where he couldn't do nothing but pray. He had to pray, and then he gave him time to think about what God had already called him to do. And so once God had to show mercy to him by letting him out of that fish and give him a second chance. And once he did, he was able to go to these people, the people that he didn't like, because he still had attitude. If you read the story of Jonah, Jonah still had attitude even after he did what God told him to do. And those people repented when they heard the warning that God was going to, he had pronounced judgment against the Ninevites. They actually repented, and God changed his mind. At that time, he changed his mind, and he allowed these people to continue to live on. But it was because Jonah made a difference with that message. So whatever God tells you to do, you need to do what God is telling you to do, because it preserved these people's lives. It said it was 60 people. That means it was 120,000 lives that was saved because of the message of Jonah. So it did make a difference. A lot of times, we want to do things big, and we really should have in our heart every day. Even after if God haven't given you specific directions, just pray about it. God, what kind of difference can I make today in somebody's life? Because a lot of times we looking for the big things, the woo, where people, can see us and all that stuff. But God is looking at the little things. Little things just such as a smile. A lot of things that, people don't even do naturally no more. Smiling at people. So many people are enraged. They angry. So when you see somebody being kind and nice to somebody, it seems like it's not even normal. That's pretty bad. You just think about how you go to restaurants and stuff, how people, they don't even have, they haven't even been trained to have customer service skills. Go through the drive-through, just like I said, they not kind, they rushing you. You go to the restaurant, sometimes the waitress and the waiter, they are not nice. But I just recently I had went to a restaurant, and me and my cousin, we had ate there, and the man was so kind, the waiter was so kind. And because of his kindness, it caused him to get a large tip. So a lot of people, they don't realize kindness will get you so much more than having the wrong attitude, especially when you're working with the public. People notice when people are kind, because it's just a rarity in the day we live in. People are, they have attitudes, they rushing you, and they not patient. A lot of people need that fruit of the Spirit to be worked in them. But it will cause you to get so much more by being nice to people. You can go visit the sick. You know, a lot of times the elderly, they just want a conversation. I remember when I worked in the mall, the older people used to be drawn to me because I would take the time and talk to them. All the, you know, one particular guy, he would tell me the same story every time I talked to him, and I would take the time to listen to him because a lot of times they are alone. They don't have, you know, a lot of times people not visiting them. A lot of them isolated, and so they just want somebody to talk to them, and you can learn a lot of valuable things from the older people because they already done been down the road that you done been through. A lot of times people just put them off because they just old. But they done live a life, they done live long enough to tell you something. And so I enjoy talking to the people that were older than me. I ain't gonna even say the elderly, but people that were older. And you know, just little things like that. All the little things that you do, they count. They count with God. You know, a lot of times we be thinking that's nothing but little things like that. You know, giving a person a phone call. Sometimes God will put people on our heart to get them a call, and we put it off. We put it off and off. And I have been guilty of that very thing. But you don't know that that phone call could change that person's day, could uplift their spirit. You know, just little things like that. And so this message is not very long, but the word today is God is calling us to make a difference. Amen. Be blessed.